Welcome to Andorks, the podcast where every week we'll analyze and scrutinize the Star Wars series Andor 7 minutes at a time. I'm Rusteen Honardoost.
And I'm Alex Pollinetz.
And previously on Andor, Cassian said goodbye to his sister on the planet Kenari, and Bix called her mysterious customer to try and arrange a meeting to help Cassian run away from Ferrix.
We need a good voice for previously on. Just
previously
there you
on.
go. That's what I'm talking about.
That's just like Halo guy voice.
That's
though.
true. Is it Don Fontaine?
The Halo guy?
No, he's just the guy. Was the famous. Don LaFontaine was the big in the world.
If we wanted to really rip off like Clone Wars, we could do the announcer guy that they have in Clone Wars. That is a real like
show.
50s
That's a different
serial.
Show. It's a different show.
But that's how they did their previously on things. I guess that's also how they did it on Korra, was like tele-news-reel guy.
Different show. Doesn't count.
Also a different show. This is not an Avatar podcast. This is a Star Wars Andor podcast. And so
Shall we jump in?
Yeah, we're now jumping in to episode 2. So exciting. Episode 2 out of 24. We're ripping through the show Andor, and we get our second version of the opening theme. And one thing I noticed with this is that this seemed like a very violin-heavy rendition of the opening.
I believe there's something happening where each episode adds an instrument to the theme song, and it's like then at the end of the season it's an orchestra, right?
It is a little bit like that, except the end of the season, spoiler alert, does have a literal orchestra kind of playing the theme as they're going through the streets, if I remember right. But you're right that each version is with a different instrument. And then I did remember hearing somebody layer all of them together, and then that became a real
That's what
orchestra.
It is, yeah. Eventually we should have a guest who's a real understands music at a better level to talk about the music of the show, because it's good.
Yeah.
I just don't have the lexicon to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. We are both writers, and neither of us understand music other than, I like that song.
Yeah, that song's, pretty.
And so in this second episode, we open with a little slug salamander-like alien critter scurrying across a tree as the kids of the planet Kenari march through the woods towards the crashed ship that we saw in the last episode. And Kassa is at the back of this crew, straggling behind, and he actually gets distracted looking out into this giant mining quarry that stretches out across the horizon. And we see these giant, dilapidated mining machines everywhere. And it's this really, apocalyptic scene. And this is our first hint at why these kids are here on this planet all alone. We see these giant dilapidated mining machines everywhere, and it's this really apocalyptic scene. And before, we've only seen these kids kind of living out on their own, and this is our first hint at the catastrophe that led to them living in this Lord of the Flies environment.
We also don't know how long they've been in this sort of tribal state.
Yeah.
Did this happen last year? I mean, it's funny to imagine it happened a week ago and they've immediately devolved to a feral state. But is there anything in the lore of how long ago it happened?
There's only some description in the Wookiepedia about Kenari that says, during the latter years of the Republic's reign, commercial assets of the Republic began the first mining operations on Kenari in pursuit of the valuable minerals found under the planet's crust. The mining teared into the world's surface to create dangerous pit mines, which is, I think, what we're seeing here. And the exploitation of Kenari left the planet scourged and poisoned, turning the once vibrant jungles and soil into a toxic wasteland within which only small tribes of orphan children managed to survive. Once the Republic took everything it believed it could, the government abandoned Kenari and declared the world off-limits, and the orphans made use of resources left behind by the Republic.
Yeah, so that makes sense. Yeah, I guess it's how much of their shared language and cultures are things that they've invented as orphans versus how much of was the Kenari culture beforehand is a question.
I think there's one really subtle bit of, I think you would just call it blocking, that tells us how long this culture has been, these kids have been here, which is that Casa is the only one who really stops to take in this vista. And I think that's because this is his first time really venturing out of the village, whereas the other older kids have probably gone on these excursions before where they put on the war paint and head out there. So I think that this is a sign that these kids have been here, you know, for a while. Maybe Casa was like, I believe he's about 6 years old at this point.
So it's happened within 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is like a plenty long time, long enough that like they could, I think, build this society, but it's not so long that they can't all like be killed in a short period of time.
Yeah, exactly.
And get wiped out.
I promise to the listeners I will eventually read it. It's been on my list of books to read for years, but eventually I will read Open Veins of Latin America, which is the like classic book about capital extraction from third world countries to profit the first world countries. And I think this is a really good, you will see this dynamic again and again in the show of the empire, or in this case, the republic, going into sort of the smaller planets, extracting as much value as possible and leaving the planets much worse than they came, which is, again, if we're going to talk about the political economy of Star Wars and the show, that is, where do these resources come from and how do we, who ends up impacted by them is a real anti-colonialist space to be playing around in for the show. I looked it up. Again, I'm going to sound smarter than I am, but I guess it's called Dependency Theory, which is basically that underdevelopment is mainly caused by the position of countries by the world economy. Underdeveloped countries offer cheap labor and raw materials in the world market. Then they are then sold to advanced economies who have the means to transform them into finished goods. Then those underdeveloped countries have to then purchase the finished good at high prices, depleting their capital they might otherwise use to their own productive capacities. You know, they take your stuff and they sell it back at a higher margin, and you stay poor while the corporations stay rich.
I think something along those lines is also what's happening on Ferrix, where they are a scrapyard planet that is going through the Empire's refuse and then cleaning it up, selling it, and then presumably if they want to then buy, you know, a brand new ship, they're buying that made out of those same parts. They're buying that at like a huge markup.
Yeah, I was going to save this for later, but I think this is a good time to bring it up. I found this article called Brasso's War by Alastair Stewart, and I'll quote it, which is that, quote, Brasso's work at the yard on Ferrix seems to fall between two real-world extremes. The world he grew up on is at the bottom of the imperial food pile, and the wrecks he breaks are a stark demonstration of that. This is where the old republic goes to die, a trash heap for the Empire, with Brasso, Cassian, and Marva and the rest picking over what is left. It is the ideal resource for Andor, a planet-sized used car lot with the keys in every ignition, but is also a job that renders down those who do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, we're seeing the different parts of the economy. Here's where the resources are extracted. Ferrix, as you said, is the place where they are taking these materials and then, after they've been used, breaking them down again. It's sort of this constant cycle, but we are sort of seeing the history of how products move through their life cycles through these different planets.
Mm-hmm. And we're actually seeing that really directly in the second sequence of this episode when we come back to the present moment and the city of Ferrix kind of goes to sleep. And we have this montage going through the city and showing us all of the people that we have met throughout the episode finishing off their day. We see Salman and Wilman closing up shop. We see Pegla shoo off
we're not there
the
yet.
hounds.
We're not there yet. Let's get there. We'll get there.
I was just moving us on to the next.
Was there anything else that we want to talk about back on?
That was all my notes for that moment. Did you have something you wanted to add?
No, just this show's so good, man.
It is a very good show.
I don't know. It just, from a screenwriting perspective, having all of the stuff layered into both the plot and the themes and the story structure is just a really incredible thing to see. And it's the deeper we dive in, the more brilliant the show seems.
Yeah, and little montages like this do so much to make Ferrix both feel like a real city, feel like a place that is alive outside of just the main story that we're following. But then also on a screenwriting level, it's such a smart way of just showing us these faces again who we maybe saw like in the previous episode and maybe aren't going to see again until the next episode. It's just a way of keeping all those faces alive for us. So we remember who Salman and Wilman are, who Pegla is. We see Brasso hanging up his gloves, and we see Nurchi kind of counting his credits anxiously. And so it puts all of these people's lives, you know, parallel to Andor's rather than just having them be, you know, in service of him.
Yeah, I think this is probably something we'll talk about a lot, but I think the decision to release the show in 3-episode block, I think, is a
well, that only happened in season 1. They released the first 3 episodes together, which actually was not the original plan. The show's original plan was they were going to release the first 2 episodes together. Then it was going to be weekly beyond that.
Okay.
There was some kind of delay. I don't remember what caused it. But then they ended up delaying the premiere by a week and releasing just the first 3 episodes together. And then after that, it was weekly for season 1.
And then season 2 is when they did the 3.
Season 2 is when they decided to then do these 3-episode chunks, which I think, from what I've read, is a combination of Disney feeling like that 3-episode premiere is when they got like the most viewership, which is kind of just like normal. Like most people are just going to watch the first episode that comes out. But everything I've read is that they did see viewership grow over the course of that first season. And then with season 2, the structure of those arcs became really codified in a way that was both artistic, but also a reflection of just the fact that they had to truncate the amount of story they wanted to tell into one season.
That makes sense. I think the feeling I got, and again, I'm going to go back to the first time I watched Andor, which is I kind of, again, didn't get it the first couple of episodes. And I think rewatching this episode, there's so much in here that then as the show develops, we understand why it's important. But I think this episode could be narratively a little dull. I think. Yeah. I think like not a ton of stuff happens in this episode that is dramatic. I guess we'll be talking about this for the next 3 weeks. But like, this episode's a lot of table setting. It's a lot of understanding characters. It's a lot of small moments, which are good and offer something. But I can imagine if you're deciding whether you want to watch the show or not, you could sort of start going, where is this going? Who are all these people?
Yeah.
And I think in the streaming era where you have the advantage of like, well, there's going to be an episode 3, we know where it's going. But I think Andor requires you to not be in that. Each episode is a 3-act structure. This episode kind of is a bunch of combination of different scenes. It's not necessarily, there's no beginning and end to this episode.
This one is especially like a transition episode between the first one that was working to introduce all these various characters, and then the third one, which is going to throw them all together in this kind of chaotic explosion. And so, yeah, you're right that this second episode is involving like moving a lot of these characters just like into the positions that are then gonna create the drama of the third episode. Yeah,
the third episode is, whether intentional or not, feels like a whole arc.
Yeah.
And if you're in a movie theater and you just saw this would be the second act, you'd be like, well, there's a third act coming. But as an individual piece of work, it doesn't have the clear narrative arc that I think a lot of the rest of the show has.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And I'm curious as we go through all the other arcs, will we feel the same way about the other middle episodes of the arc? Because I feel like a lot of the time when we talk about the show, especially when we talk about like all of our favorite moments, they often are the moments that come at the climax of each of those arcs. And one of the things I'm really interested about seeing is what are the little moments elsewhere in the show that people miss talking about just because, well, we're too busy talking about like the big fight that's going to happen.
Somebody should do a podcast about that.
If only someone was doing a podcast about it. Because the other reason to do a podcast about Andor is that I get to talk about one of my favorite characters, the Time Grappler.
The Time Grappler. Sorry, I'm going to blow out the mic. The Time Grappler.
Did you when I mentioned the Time Grappler, he in episode 1, you hear him grappling with time in the distance, and you rolled your eyes at me when I said his name was the Time Grappler.
I'm coming around. It just sounds like a Doctor Who villain.
It is very Doctor Who. He is played by a British actor by the name of Neil Bell, who you might...
Wait, his name is Bell?
His name is literally Bell. You might also recognize him as the Sardaukar general in Dune, Denis Villeneuve's Dune. He's where the guy is doing all the weird like throat singing.
Okay, that's him?
Yeah, he's not the throat singer,
okay.
but he's like the guy prepared to go to war with the...
Do you think sometimes he gets wacky with it and does like Sandstorm?
No, I think that the pomp and circumstance that he like carries those hammers with, he's doing all these crazy movements. He's got like a real ritual to this. This is clearly like a job that has been in...
His father did it.
Ferrix.
Yes, his grandfather did it. Yeah, but
he's a bit of a nepo baby, maybe.
But no, doing Sandstorm would be fun though.
It would be fun. The anvil that he is playing is made out of Beskar, which is the same material used to make Mandalorian armor. It's obviously a very like expensive, valuable material, which I think tells us how important this role is to the community, like the ceremonial value that being the Time Grappler of Ferrix has.
So actually, I tried to do some research on where this sort of tradition comes from, which obviously there's a pretty common tradition of like, even just a bell at a church of it's 12 o'clock. But as far as I can tell back, the oldest origin of this I could find it's called the Knocking Tower.
Ooh.
It's in Slovakia, and it was built in like the 1600s. And are you looking up a picture of it now?
I am, yeah.
Okay. But yeah, it housed the Treasury of the Mining Brotherhood, which sounds awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And they helped the widows and orphans of miners. But basically, it was a wooden hammer that called the miners to work.
Yeah.
And that, as far as I can tell, that is the earliest version of this. So they went deep into Slovakian history.
That's awesome.
I found someone on Reddit being like, I think this is based off the church down my street in Slovakia. And I looked it up. I'm like, you know what? Based off my research, I think you're correct. There's nothing that predates this. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a physical experience for the town to have. Like, we're in science fiction, but the way that everybody knows that it's time to call off work is that the guy rings a bell. It's not like your Apple Watch telling you like log off now.
I mean, it's also. Oh, actually, I realized this is not the oldest version of it. The oldest version is when the dinosaur is pulled on the Flintstones, and and then everyone's done with work.
Exactly.
That's actually the oldest version of this. That's what it's based off of.
Okay. I love the Time Grappler. Don't get me wrong. But what if there was a giant dinosaur?
I mean,
that
dinosaur.
He had to go honk, honk. He has to like pat his butt, and then it goes honk, honk, and lets everyone know that they can go home. Yeah. He should say that at the end of doing his grappling. He just looks right in the camera and goes, "It's a living.
It's a living."
I also want to say that the Time Grappler inspired me to make my very first edit to Wookiepedia.
Ooh.
The episode, the description of this episode only called him a human male beating a stone table with two hammers, which is just wrong.
It's not stone.
It's not stone, and put some respect on the Time Grappler's name, okay? He worked hard to become the Time Grappler, and he deserves to be properly credited.
Is there a chance that just his name is Time Grappler?
It is now.
Time Grappler.
If you want your kid to be the Time Grappler, you have to name him Time Grappler.
Yeah. You mentioning that he's banging on Beskar makes me think of the Ewoks playing drums on the...
a long tradition of banging on things in Star Wars. Later on, we will see the Time Grappler make another appearance, and I am very excited.
He will grapple again.
He will grapple. The Time Grappler distract Thanos. Getting back on track, we have this montage of as the Time Grappler is grappling with time of the city, and then we land back at Bix's Salyard. Bix's Colleen Salyard is what it's called, where we see her reading something distressing on her computer terminal. And
she's on Twitter.
Yeah, she's on Twitter when she told Tim that she wasn't going to be, because when
I'm
he
just
walks
on Blue
in,
Sky, it's fine. It's not Twitter. And then going to check Twitter anyway. Not a thing I do at all.
Her time limit came up and she hit snooze, And she told Tim she wasn't going to do that anymore. She looks really suspicious when Tim walks in and asks her out to dinner. She says that they have a rule to only go out one night a week, and he coyly asks, well, what if we start the week tonight instead? And instead, she just, kind of pushes him off till tomorrow with a kiss on the cheek, and she runs out of there. And that's when Tim starts snooping through her computer and sees an APB from Primor Security that says, seeking a Canary male resident of Ferrix for questioning. Citizens with any information, please contact the Preox Morlana Security HQ without delay. And he gets this horrible look on his face as we know, as he gets a bad idea.
I know somebody from Canary.
Well, I actually wonder if he does know that Andor is from Canary, or if he's just putting two and two together from Bix's reaction to reading this and her relationship with Andor, and then his jealousy kind of putting those two things together.
Is Tim that smart?
I don't think he's smart. I think he's just jealous.
That's fair,
I think he just saw this and assumes anything bad in Bix's life is because of Andor. And if she's concerned reading this, then he's got to do something about it.
She also goes in for the cheek kiss instead of the mouth kiss, which is a real oof.
Yes.
Oofa doofa.
It's almost sweet when he comes in and is like, what if we get dinner tonight? Like, he's clearly like rehearsed. Maybe he's even got like a reservation at like a nice restaurant in town that he was hoping to like surprise her with. But she has very strict boundaries on their relationship that they only go out once a week for dinner. But we are going to, later see that she doesn't mind breaking those boundaries.
No, it's also they had to cut back because they were using Uber Eats too much.
The Salyards do not pay what they used to.
I mean, yeah, I guess we have. It's just the same robot we have in Los Angeles delivering food. Also, just like, it's the same robot.
Oh, same-o. That I love B2, but my love for B2 does not extend to Samo or any of John Mulaney's favorite food delivery robots.
Bring Samo to Star Wars. No, God, don't do that. No. Why did I introduced it as a concept, and now I immediately regret it.
You should regret it.
I noticed someone pointed this out online, which is that, as far as I could tell, this was the first case of English text showing up on screen.
Yeah.
When Tim is reading out the Primor Authority message, it shows up on screen, which I think is sort of a interesting stylistic choice. I guess they didn't want to do the boring thing of him reading it out loud for the third time, but I think it's interesting. It's not in basic, which it should be.
We see it in Arabesh, the language of Star Wars, on the computer screen. And it even has the same flashing text that we then see when it gets translated into English, which, you're right, it is the very first time that that's happened. I have to imagine it was just the most natural way to communicate that information, because it would be kind of silly if Tim was like, a Canary male wanted for questioning? Although we do get it read out to us in the next scene also. So I wonder if maybe at some point they thought about not including that information and decided that the audience needs to know that Tim knows the same information.
Yeah, or maybe they read it and it was sort of not clear maybe the audience didn't remember what she had just seen. So he's reading it and he's just sort of making a weird face, and the audience doesn't know what he's actually reacting to.
Mm-hmm.
So then we pick up from there. We see Cassian walking through the streets of Ferrix, and we walk into the home, and we see Rusteen's best friend, B2 Emo.
In his little charging pod.
Yeah, I saw someone refer to it as, it looks like his little doggy cage. Like his little dog cage.
A little dog bed.
Yeah. But yeah, then we meet, hey, it's Marva. Hi, Marva.
Hi, Marva.
We will spend a lot of time with Marva. She looks very cozy. She's got a little blanket on her chair. She's sitting around. She's having a time. Completely tangential point, but we're rewatching it, the number of times in the first 20 minutes where there's parenthetical sniffles. I don't know why it's in there, but I'm like, is there a sub later here that like Cassian has a cold? Like, I don't know. I'll go back and count it maybe for another episode, but like, there's a lot of sniffling going on in this episode. I don't know why.
It's an emotional episode. It's a sad episode, I think.
I read it as like congested, not
congested. I think everybody's just very emotional, and also Ferrix is a very dusty planet, so maybe their allergies are all acting up.
But yeah, so he says hello to Marva. We don't know who Marva is yet, so I guess we can wait till the show introduces her properly. But he gives her a cute little kiss on the cheek. B2, does he kiss B2 Emo?
I think he gives B2 like a little pat on the head.
He should kiss B2 Emo in the head.
He should give B2 a kiss.
Give B2 a kiss. I'm just looking now. It cuts off beforehand. So I think in my mind he does give him a kiss. The camera just cuts away a little fast. There's sort of like a weird vibe in the room. Cassian asks everything okay. Marva's sort of doesn't respond, and he goes like, "Oh, this thing on my face. I need to wash it." And he makes up a lie about what happened. Says he tripped on a cable. Marva, again, doesn't really respond. He gives the story of he ran into Brasso. We had a lot to talk about.
Which is the lie that we saw them make up in the first episode.
Exactly. And clearly something is off. Marva does not believe what he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And she tells B2 Emo to read it to him.
Which is really funny because at the beginning of the scene, she, very sternly tells B2, like, don't say a word. And then when she says, B2, read it, he's like, can I talk now?
What was B2 Emo going to do?
I think B2 was going to warn Andor about this message that has come from Primor. And Marva, in typical angry mom fashion, is like, I want to see if Andor is going to tell me about what he's done. She is doing the like angry mom thing of like sitting in the dark waiting for her son to come home late at night so she can confront him about the fact that he's been a bad boy.
This is her kid, and she knows that she's going to give the kid her chance, but she's going to she knows that he's lying. She just wants to give him the chance to admit it.
Yeah, exactly. I think she really wants him to tell her the truth. And he gives her this bullshit about, like, oh, I just like was with Brasso and we got into some trouble. But then she has B2 read out the story. And that's when Marva's concern for him is like so infectious that like when she starts like getting worked up, Andor also starts getting really worked up too and gets emotional for really like kind of the first time that we've seen.
Yeah, we found someone, he cares about Bix, but truly he really cares about Marva.
Yeah.
And B2, who's like so embarrassed and scared that he's going to do something wrong.
Yeah.
It's adorable.
B2's just trapped between like a bickering family, and he's the sibling who's tasked with keeping everybody happy, Not relatable at all.
Not relatable at all. So basically, B2 repeats the message that Tim just read, which is, seeking a Kenari male, resident of Ferrix for questioning. Marva asks him who else knows where he was born, that he was born on Kenari. They sort of go back and forth of, I haven't told anyone. Well, I told them. We told family. Well, family doesn't count. Marva says everyone I've told is dead, which is some real parent guilt.
Yeah, she's laying down the guilt so hard of like, everyone I know is dead. You're all that I have left.
And he goes, if we're making a list, we're making a list.
Yeah.
And then Marva, incredibly, calls him out, goes, well, then I guess you should make I don't get the line correctly.
She says, I'm worried about all your women or something like that.
Make a list of your women.
Femi, Carla, Sandrine, some names I don't even know. And then B2 chimes in with Bix, and Cassian gets really upset. But I do think when he is saying Bix, he's remembering that Bix has called for him.
Okay.
And he's like going like, oh, Bix, right, I'm supposed to tell you about Bix calling for you.
And she continues. There's Angela, Pamela, Sandra, Rita.
A little bit of Minnie on the side.
Exactly. There you go. Minnie?
I only know the Disney version of Mambo No. That's the only version I remember.
You don't know the actual version?
I don't remember the names. I just remember a little bit of Donald in the sun. A little bit of me.
Wait, so who's...
He did a version with everything. There's like a million versions of Mambo No. 5.
But it's... Who's... The implication that he's in love with Minnie, who is it from the perspective of Mickey?
I think he changes the lyrics so it's not sexual. That they are just like having a party. Maybe he's like inviting them all to a party or something.
Lou Bega, you got a lot to talk about. I'm looking this up right now. We're going on a deep dive.
Mambo No. 5 Disney version, I promise, is a thing. Can I find the lyrics? Let's go to genius.com.
I like Minnie, Goofy, Pluto, and Daisy. And as I continue, the gang is going crazy. So what can I do? I really beg you, my lord. I'm glad he kept in the begging God.
To me, dancing is just like a sport. Anything fly, it's all good. Let me dump it. Play, please set in the trumpet. A little bit of Minnie in my life. A little bit of Mickey by her side.
Okay.
A little bit of Donald's all I need. A little bit of Daisy's what I see.
He's looking at Daisy.
Oh, yeah. And a little bit of Pluto in the sun. Huey, Dewey, Louie, can't go wrong.
Whoa. Time out. The thing about Huey, Dewey, and Louie is famously everything goes wrong. They go on misadventures.
But you can't go wrong going on misadventures with them, which is, I think, maybe the point of this song.
I think he fundamentally misunderstands the dynamic of the extended Donald Duck family universe.
These must have all been approved by Disney. So I think these are canon lyrics for the Huey, Dewey, Louie universe. For the DuckTales universe.
The album art for this is incredible. It is the most 2000 thing ever. Are you seeing it? I can only describe it as like a bunch of like neon lights and then Mickey in a yellow shirt and like a blue dress shirt just holding up a giant mic. And
he's like inside of a disco ball.
Yeah, that's a better way of describing it.
Looks very like Parappa the Rapper.
I wish. And then the name of the album, are you seeing it?
Radio Disney Jams Volume 2.
Oh, no, I'm seeing something else.
What are you seeing?
The Genius.com album art, if you want to look up Disney Mambo number 5, is La Vida Mickey.
Yes. I don't know if that's the name of... That must be the name of this album.
We'll post the link in the description so everyone can enjoy this artwork for themselves.
This is going to be the episode art for this episode.
I mean, Andor is a Disney product. We're not going too far off our...
Exactly. God. Yeah. Where were we?
Andor number 5.
Andor. A little bit of Bix in the sun. A little bit of Cyril. Can't go wrong.
Can go wrong. Can go very wrong.
But in keeping with the lyrics, we have to keep it
That's
wrong.
True, yeah.
Inaccurate. Sorry. Where were we? We were talking about Marva's list of all of Andor's girlfriend.
And then she mentions Bix, and he goes, Bix has nothing to do with this.
Mm-hmm.
He gets really angry. And she goes, yeah, well, who told anybody that you're from Canary? Well, interesting. So originally they established that Marva reminds Andor that they say that he's from a place, Fest, which is actually a retcon.
Oh, yeah.
In the extended literature for Rogue One, it says that Cassian is from Fest.
The planet Fest,
yes,
exactly.
So now they've had to sort of, I love how much we talk about the show and its politics, but it still has to figure out how to like get through these loopholes of established lore. So it has to be like, oh no, he lies that he's from Fest and that he's actually from Canary.
This is the thing I love about Star Wars canon, which is as kind of insanely overwrought as it can be, it's still a living text. The way I heard Tony describe working with, Star Wars
I'm a Star Wars
master.
originalist. I don't believe...
Yeah. I am not an originalist. What do you call the opposite of an originalist? I guess
I don't know the Supreme Court. What's the opposite?
No one cares. We don't respect the Supreme Court on this podcast. But the way Gilroy talks about working with like the lore
Clarence
master,
Thomas does look like a Star Wars alien, just sort of like
absolutely.
I keep doing that voice for just.
The point I was trying to make is that Pablo Hidalgo, one of the lore masters for Star Wars, he talks about it almost like a living religious text of like interpretation. This is the story that we have so far. How do you, as a writer, want to interpret the history that is here? And if there are things that we want to change or to deepen or to even contradict, there is still room to do that in Star Wars. And that's what Andor does so well.
Pablo, if you ever want to come on and do a 13-hour episode, please, we have plenty of questions. We should have just a running document of questions for Pablo.
We need to power map our way to Pablo Hidalgo.
Exactly.
How close can we get to getting Pablo Hidalgo on this podcast?
Or just be like, Mr. Hidalgo, we have the worst questions ever.
I promise you there's people with worse questions for him. One moment that I really like in this sequence is Marva, who I do want to shout out, played by the great Fiona Shaw. When she's yelling about this notice, she says "Primor bastards" with like such venom and contempt.
That's why you bring in the Irish. The Irish could give you that
Yes.
venom, yes.
Exactly. She sounds exactly like that old lady who's talking about how much she hates Margaret Thatcher in that moment. Like, that is the same level of contempt that she has.
Which is funny because it's contrasted to an aesthetic of her dynamic sitting in this chair in her living room. I can only describe as the celestial seasoning sleepy time bear.
Yes. Well, it's because her house is so cold,
Yes.
as Brasso told us in the first episode. She has to stay all bundled up all the time.
But yeah, she looks. I wish she had the little hat. That'd be good if she had the hat.
I bet she's got a sleeping cap. We don't see her sleeping yet, but maybe later we're going to see it. And then the final moments of this episode.
Well, I wanted to.
Oh, sure. Yeah, sorry.
There's a very funny moment where Cassian admits that he told the Primor employees about Canary. B2 Emo says that Bix is called, but Marva still wants to talk about the situation. B2 Emo then gets overwhelmed with demands and kind of just shuts down.
Yeah, he says that his comms access is throttled. I've never understood what he was saying until I watched it with the subtitles. And so I think he's trying to access his comms with his comms record, like with Bix, and just like the memory gets like clogged up and he just has a system crash.
I think he's also just overwhelmed emotionally and just saying,
all the angry yelling and stuff. Just by like moving that little head of his, they're able to get like so much emotion out of this droid. And I don't know if I'm just like a mark for this kind of thing because I love droids so much, but in that moment when Andor is desperately trying to get information out of him and he has the system crash, made me like fall in love with B.
No, I think he's just his selective choices of when he wants to do his job and doesn't want to do his job. It's very funny.
You think he's selectively choosing not to tell Andor right
now?
No, I think he's trying so hard to tell Andor. I think he wants nothing more than to tell Andor this information, but like he gets overclocked trying to process it, and it leads to this crash.
Do you think that there's any, like, you know how people give like antidepressants to their dogs?
Uh-huh.
Do you think that B2 Emo needs like an antidepressant?
He needs a stimulant. He needs, I
guess,
uppers. Yeah. What he really needs is like a new battery, but maybe like the droids have that like Apple thing of planned obsolescence, and you're not allowed to like replace the battery. And
no, that would make sense. I mean, are androids human? An issue deeply explored in Solo.
Yes, very deeply.
Where people have not seen it, implies heavily that Lando Calrissian has fucked a robot.
He sure has.
It's something that Star Wars can probably never touch, of explaining how the whole thing works. Or has this been explained in lore of like...
We'll talk about it in the next episode.
Okay.
About the relationship of sex in Star Wars.
Ooh.
Stay tuned.
Tantalizing. Do we want to wrap it up there?
There's like one final moment, which is the end of this scene is Cassian admitting that Primor has their sights on him because it's his fault.
Yes, he's admitting fault.
Which is the first time we've seen him really do that. Throughout everything that we've seen so far, Cassian has been pretty quick to shift blame away from himself, to explain away every choice that he's made for why it was the right thing to do. And I think this meeting with Marva is the first time that he lets that guard down even a little bit. And we'll start to see we'll see that reverberate throughout the rest of this episode. I think that this happens in the beginning of episode 2 is important. I think this is him getting knocked down a peg and admitting that he actually is like kind of in a bad space.
Well, he's had a moment to breathe and see what's going on.
Mm-hmm. And I think the Primor APB coming through is a really real threat, that they know where he's from, what planet he resides on, and they're actively looking for him. Whereas everything he was afraid of before was abstract. Are they going to come after me? Are they going to figure out where I'm from? Are they going to figure out who I am? And now he knows that they have half of that information, and it's just a matter of time until they get the rest.
This might be pushing it a little bit, but I guess you could draw a mirror to the opening scene that we dealt with, where he's following along, he's sort of going momentum, and he takes a moment to stop and reflect and sees all of this devastation happening. As he's sort of having that moment here of, I've been running since this happened, and now I'm taking a moment and saying, oh, fuck, this is the landscape in front of me.
Yeah. Yeah, he's returned home and is now seeing that everything has changed. Like, he's come home and he thinks he can just pretend like everything is normal. And Marva has so much concern for him that I think it's only now really dawning on him that his whole life is fucked up and he has very little options and little room to get out of this before the worst can happen.
on that fun, exciting note, I think now we can call it. I think we've gone through our 7 minutes.
Yeah. This was the first 7 minutes of episode 2. Should say the title. It's called That Would Be Me. I don't know where this
where that quote appears
comes from. We'll find out. We'll shout it out when it finally comes up.
Yeah, so that's we're now at 40 minutes total. Done.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big number.
932 more to go.
Hell yeah.
Let's keep going.
We're doing it, folks. Time's flying by, isn't it? Thank you so much for listening.
If we have any Slovakian listeners, please tell us more about the knocking tower.
Yes, we would love to hear about the knocking tower. We'd love to come visit, maybe record an episode inside the knocking tower. Andorks live show from the knocking tower.
The Klopacka is what it is in Slovakian.
Ooh, Klopacka?
The Klopacka.
I love it.
Why is that just the Klopacka? I don't know. Is it the way I'm saying it?
A little bit. It sounds like a Star Wars character.
It does, yeah.
We should find a...
We'll see. We're going to save Klopacka as a name for when we see another alien.
I can't wait, because there were no aliens in this episode other than...
the little bug at the beginning.
Do we want to call the little bug at the beginning a Klopacka, or
no,
do you want to save it?
Klopacka's a good name. We want to save Klopacka.
It is a good name. You're right. All right, we'll save that. Get ready for the exciting application of the name Klopacka. Thank you for listening. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe on whatever podcast platform you are listening to this on. And we will see you next week for part 2 of That Would Be Me. Bye, everyone.
But I'll say in Slovakian, do widzenia.